Hello and welcome to the Film Pittsburgh Fall Festival and this very special discussion with some of the creators behind some of the short films that you just saw. Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Hi.
Hello.
Going.
Hi. Barney, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself and just tell us your film and your role, and we'll go around and everyone will introduce themselves.
Sure. I'm Barney Elliot. The film is called Autos Fantásticos, but the English translation is Fantastic Cars.
Thank you.
I'm based out of Lima, Peru. It's a Peruvian film. It's an absurd comedy. I wrote, directed, and produced it. Well, and edited. You know,
Wow.
like we all
Craft
do.
services as well?
Sorry?
Craft services as well?
Yeah, well, as well. I'm a great cook. Yeah, it's been a great time.
Thanks. Patrick.
Hi, I'm Patrick Smith. My film is Beyond No. It's a film that shows thousands of masks from all around the world at 24 frames per second. And I'm really happy to be here. I hope you enjoyed the film.
We're happy to have you here. Noel, how about for you? Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Noel Anaya, based out of San Francisco Bay Area, and my film is Unadopted, and I'm the producer, writer, and the host.
Thank you. Tessa.
Hi, my name is Tessa Slovis. I am the writer, director, and producer of the short narrative Pizza Party.
Terrific. Thank you. Patrick, let's start with you. Can you tell me, first of all, where did the idea come from? And also, how did you find these unbelievably beautiful masks?
Well, the impetus for Beyond No was my personal mask collection.
Oh.
I don't have 3,000, but I have quite a few. And in particular, I have a few masks from the No Theater in Japan, which I really treasure. And I've been studying masks for decades. It goes back to when I was in my 20s. And I've always photographed masks wherever I go. It's just a hobby of mine. And I think sometime last year, around the time I wrapped up my previous film, my wife and I were at our home in outside of Osaka, and we visited a wood carver that she knew that I really wanted to meet. And I left with about a couple hundred photos of really well photographed, well lit masks, and those were the first ones we organized and composited into the animation.
Yeah, and they're all set on a black background, and the animation is so quick that the switch between masks is so quick. How long did it take you to sort of decide which mask followed which?
Well, the juxtaposition of the masks themselves is the narrative of the movie. And that was one of the things that I really put a lot of thought into, because it really doesn't leave out many cultures. Every culture in the world, as far as I know, has participated in mask making in some way or another. So it was fun. Like, where do you place them? Like, for example, if you have a leather BDSM mask, what do you put that next to? Because the juxtaposition of the two is going to suggest.
That one jumped out at me. Was
Well, fortunately, especially with our travels in Japan is a place of a lot of contrasts. So a lot of times, the same day I was photographing these beautiful No Theater masks, I was also photographing plastic Hello Kitty masks. So it kind of wrote itself in that way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The ones that you chose, I'm sure you could have probably included another 1,000 because there are so many, as you said, in every culture. But the other thing that I found interesting was the music that you chose was almost like a character as well. It really propelled the story. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the music is by a group called Turku. They're a Turkish percussion group. They're based in South Carolina here in the States. And honestly, I came across their music on a random website, and it was just so good. The percussion resonated with me so much. I kept it in my head. I'd been sitting on that music for years, and I contacted the band and secured the rights. And it was I think the music was the piece that made the idea really work. I don't think it would have worked without that specific type of percussion.
Yeah, it absolutely brought it all together and really helped to tell a story with all of these masks. It was beautiful. What has your reception been lately with everybody wearing masks these days, although not quite as beautiful as that?
Well, that was an interesting part. I was wrapping up production on this film when COVID hit, and we had already had. Well, I had some safety masks in there, but it was January. It really hadn't hit yet. It was still just kind of this thing. But I made the decision. We went to the store. You could still get N95 masks at that time, and I bought I think 10 or 12 of them, and we photographed them. And we put them right in that section, and that was when we wrapped in January. Our premiere was a couple months later, virtually.
Wow! Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting timing for the film, I think.
It certainly was. What a time to bring it out into the world. But we're glad you did, because it's lovely. I just enjoyed it so much.
Well, it's an honor to be in Pittsburgh.
Thank you. Even if it's virtual. Right. Exactly. And Tessa, I loved your film as well. Can you tell us that it's such an important topic that it was based on, and tell us sort of the genesis and the development for you?
Yeah, so Pizza Party is kind of a fictionalized retelling of based on true events of what happened or might have happened the night before the Larry Nassar trials began. For those of you that don't know, Larry Nassar both worked for the U.S. national gymnast team, but also worked in both Michigan State University and also privately as a physical therapist, a doctor, and he was accused of and convicted of assaulting over, ultimately, now the number is in the 200s, but at the time it was 156 women and girls over his career. And I was listening to the podcast Believed by Michigan Radio at NPR, and I was also in my last year of actor training at USC in my MFA program, and I was in a directing for actors class. And it kind of all came together at this really serendipitous moment where we were tasked to write a 1-location, 10-page short. I had never written a script before.
Wow.
And yeah, this is my first film that I've ever written or
knocked it out of the park with your first one.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And I was listening to the podcast at the same time, and I'm a sexual assault survivor, so it felt like this very important conversation, especially in relation to Title IX. And that's kind of how it came to be. And my teacher, Jean Gallerano, who actually stars in the film as Max and was one of the co-producers on the film, turned to me and was like, we can't make this in school. You need to go out there and make it. So immediately after I graduated, it was the first thing I did. And it's completely shifted the trajectory of my life. I'm now pursuing filmmaking.
Oh, fantastic. And we're all the richer for it.
Oh, thank you.
Did your personal experience then really impact how you worked with your actors, who were all phenomenal?
Yes, it's interesting coming from I have been an actor since I was 5 years old professionally, and in conservatory training most of my life. And it was so interesting because that was the stuff that I was like, great, I can do this. The technical element, the being able to talk with my DP in very specific terms, or being able to kind of play it off with my crew that I knew what I was doing in that way, was the challenge. But I have to say, I had an amazing DP who was also, right out of school, really excited to get involved, Demi Waldron, and she guided me the entire way and basically gave me an abridged film school in our entire pre-production process. So I came in feeling really good. But the acting conversation, we had 2 days to shoot that thing, and I was very, very careful to make sure that I had time with the actors, especially because of the themes. And yeah, that was the part that was the most magical, being able to work with the actors on material that I had created.
Yeah, they were all wonderful. And it's such a sensitive topic, obviously, but it ended just on a very hopeful note, I would say. Is that what you wanted to communicate?
Yeah, we had 2 different endings, actually, and I won't spoil which one, but I think it's an interesting point to make. When we were in the editing process, we had 2 films, basically, with one ending and the other ending. And when we screened it to people, there was one ending that a lot of men liked, and one ending that a lot of women liked. And it was so interesting. And I won't tell you which one I picked.
Come on.
I won't. But it was a really interesting thing, because you could tell that women maybe who might be a little bit more connected to this journey wanted something else. And then other people kind of wanted it tied up in a different way. But I think ultimately the ending for me is about this idea of joyful fury and abandon and this retribution, a moment of like taking a bite out of what had happened. And also, food, if you watch it again, food and eating disorders and disordered eating is actually a really big part of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, it was beautifully portrayed, very sensitively, but also just, as I said, hopeful and lovely. And we're so happy you shared it with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And Noel, yours is a personal experience story as well. You are the story in your doc. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for having my film in the festival. I am a 3-time award-winning writer on the topic of the child welfare system.
Wow.
And there's three forms of media it's gotten released on: print, audio, and now my debut documentary, Unadopted, which would be the third on this kind of packaged story on teens and the child welfare system. And for my debut documentary, like you said, it is about me, but it's not 100% focused on me. And the reason why I wanted to do it is because every year the U.S. government promises hundreds and thousands of kids in foster care that they'll return those young folks to either their parents or find them new homes or forever families. But for thousands of young people, including like more than a third who enter over the age of 12 years old, that doesn't really happen. And including for myself, I was born and raised in foster care, and no one should be in the system for 21 years. That's a life sentence.
Yeah.
And so I just investigate in my debut documentary on why that happens and who's responsible for this.
Yeah. Well, you really took your own personal story and used it as a way to explore the whole system and to really find a way into the other young people's stories who you talked with. They were all so gracious to share their stories as well.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that it's getting the message and people are becoming a little bit more aware and enlightened about what really goes on in the system, especially since I think the topic's a little bit taboo and not a lot of people really talk about losing their kids or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, everyone knows the word foster care, foster children, but it's not really something that is discussed very widely, and especially not from the child's point of view, which was very interesting, and especially teenagers as well. So that the folks that you followed all had a teenage experience with it.
Right. Like I said, since I was one of the writers and producers as well as a host, I think one of the big things that I had to make sure when we started this production was it can't be from the points of view of adults or grown people. Young adults and younger narratives, I think, would have been way more compelling than, looking back, having the typical caseworker or person that works around that system kind of talk.
Yeah. And you did have some of those folks in there, the judge, of course, and right. The families as well. But it really is the children's story.
Yes, I agree.
And speaking of them, can you tell us, are you still in contact with some of the other folks that you talked with? Can you tell us where they are today?
I am. I still am in contact with them. I won't go too into it because it'll be a little spoilers, but everyone's in college, so that's a good thing.
Great.
Everyone's in college. Everyone has a home of some sort that they can call theirs, and I guess that's awesome. I do keep in contact with them.
That's great. And you're in college as well, or I know at the end you were at the end of the film, but I don't know how long ago you shot it.
Yeah. Yes, I am still in school.
Terrific. What degree are you going for?
I am going for a multimedia communications degree with a business minor.
Well, this is a perfect, I don't know if you need a thesis project, but you've already done it, I think. So this is
exactly
quite
it's good to integrate them together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's such a lovely story. I mean, it was hard to watch, and at different points, of course, but also I think sort of ended on a hopeful note. I feel like you showed your relationship with your mom developing, and your progress, and the other kids really ending up okay. So that I think it also ended on a very hopeful note. Was that your intention, or did it just kind of come to be that way when you ended filming?
I don't know if it was our intent, but we did want it to feel like a book end to everything that I was doing around this topic.
Yeah.
And I think that there were certain things that didn't happen in the doc that I wanted to happen. And so I think one of the big things were getting an adult to admit that they lost their kid, just so we can know like why this could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And it was very intense, but I think the surprise factor was my niece being there, and she never got to go through the system, thank goodness. And love is a story, so that's how it ends, and I ended. And I think that that wasn't our intended end, but it worked so well, and the general audience received it really well, so we just kept it. So yeah.
It did work well. I mean, the whole story did, and we're so grateful that you shared it with us. It was lovely. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And Barney, your short just made me laugh. I have to say, our programmers really mix it up for these short programs. So we have a lot of different genres. We have a lot of different topics. And yours just is so very funny. Can you tell us where the story of Fantastic Cars came from?
I actually, here in Peru, I live in Peru, and I have directed many commercials over the years. And that was actually the seed of that idea was a pitch for a 30-second spot.
Ah.
And it's always, actually it was for like a newspaper, like a New York Times, to show that they can sell advertising that they can sell cars in the advertising section of their auto section.
Okay.
And so I pitched an idea of cars that can talk, and they didn't go for it. They went for something else that I ended up making the commercial of. But that idea had always stuck with me. I just really thought it was a very funny idea. And, I've been doing this a long time now, and it's kind of the rule is if the things stick around, if they don't go away, it means you got to make them. They're important to you somehow,
Yeah.
And that one I knew it was just a matter of when. And actually the person that I came up with the idea with, who was my dupla, like my directing partner in commercials, every year I would say to him, let's make it. And, he was shooting other stuff, and it just never worked out. And eventually after 5 or 6 years, I was like, enough, I'm going to do it on my own. And so that was it.
You did well. I'm very glad that they didn't go for the ad, because we wouldn't have this. We'd have had
That's right. That's right. It's one of those things where like you think, man, I really want to do that commercial, but the universe is always in your corner. I'm convinced of that. COVID is in our corner. I don't know how, but it's there.
Is it though? Your actors also were just terrific. That father-son combo, the dynamic was great. Their performances were lovely. How did you find them?
Well, they're actually father-son. They're both actors.
That explains.
And the father is kind of one of the most well-known actors here in Peru. And it's such a small market. You go to parties or whatever, and I've never worked with him on a commercial or in cinema, but I've always admired his work, and I knew it was just whenever there's a chance to work with Miguel, I want to work with him. And this project came up, and when I was writing it, I saw him, because I'd seen so much of his other work, I could just write for him.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know he had his son. I didn't know that. And then somebody told me when I was looking for the kid, he's got a son who's also an actor, and I had no idea. Actually, my old boss at the production company where I used to make commercials said, you should check out his son.
Yeah.
And then that seemed, as soon as I met Franco, it was fairly obvious to have a father-son, both actors, both very well trained, and a relationship between each other that was very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's not really about me directing. The authenticity is there. It's just sort of let them do what they know how to do. That's, I really believe, Tessa, you were saying you're an actress. This is the first time I've ever made comedy. All my films before have always been drama, and, my feature was big drama and etc. But it doesn't really matter for me what genre it is. I really believe actors are, if you give them like mediocre material, they can take it to a certain place. But if you give them good material, just let them act, let them do what they know how to do, and they will bring you so many great things. And I really believe in that, having trust to let them, I'm not the director that says it has to be this way. And that film is really a testament to that. A lot of that is feeling it in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and your voice actors also are crucial to this film, and they were all phenomenal.
That was a lot of fun. This is, like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I've edited many shorts and features and directed a lot of stuff. And this was hands down the most challenging film to edit and to work with, because the thing is, in the voice, you write the script, but then as you're editing and you've already recorded,
mm-hmm.
I was always using my voice as the cars.
Okay.
Me and my wife, I would use. She's an actress as well, and I would record our voices and put in, because you're always writing new ideas, new jokes for the cars, because you don't see their lips, so you can rewrite the script essentially.
True.
For those who don't know, the cars talk.
Yeah.
Right? And so like you're just hearing the voices or the minds of these cars. And so it took a while until I was really secure with what the script was for the cars. And then I would go into the studio with the actors and record them. And that was just a blast. Again, it's like, let them act.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they brought a lot of joy to it, and that really, you feel that watching it. It's so much fun. So thank you, Barney.
Great journey. Thank you so much for the opportunity to
we're
exhibit.
so glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your work with us. All of you, thank you for sharing your work with our audience. I know they loved it as much as I did. So take care, everyone, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So much.
And thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the festival.